Thanks Kraken and Treacle for all the cat hair on the microphone. Okay. So, another attempt at filming this video. It's the June Humble Choice, and as ever, I'm here to tell us what disappointments await us. First up, we have Warhammer 40k Boltgun. Now this is a first-person action shooter, and it's actually pretty good. It reminds me a lot of the games we had in the 90s, but ramped up with higher frame rates and faster action. There's kind of shooting things in the face, and a surge thing that just rushes into people and makes them explode. Absolutely wonderful. I'll probably play it a little bit more, at least I'll try to. It works really nicely on the Steam Deck, and for the first game this month, this is actually pretty fun. Next we have Legacy of Kain, Soul Reaver 1 and 2 Remastered. I was a big fan of these on the Dreamcast, but when I saw it was coming out as a remastered, I bought it on the PlayStation 5. And then I was quite disappointed. For some reason it never really worked out the problems with the cameras. One stick would be handling the camera and the other for the movement, but the movement would also move the camera, and it just seemed like a bit of a mess. I think the original consoles it released on only had one motion stick, so they tried to stick the camera behind you, so it seems to still be fighting against that. On PC it seems a little bit better. The first improvement is obviously that they fixed the unskippable cutscenes, which might not seem like a big thing, but every time I've been trying to play Soul Reaver 2 since its release on the non-remastered PC versions, you have to sit through that initial intro, and it's good. It just, if you can't skip it, then you're stuck there, and then if the save game messes up for whatever reason, you have to do it all over again. And yeah, I've had to watch that dozens of times over the years. Soul Reaver 1 doesn't feel like it's aged particularly well, even with the remaster. Soul Reaver 2 is a bit better, but your natural enemy in this game is still the camera. Other than that though, it's kind of fun, and I'll try and play it a bit more, possibly on Steam Deck, just to see if I can get back to it in the same way that I did when it first came out.
Brand new body at your local government.
Now, Nobody Wants to Die is an interesting one. It starts out giving the impression that it's a bit of a film noir mystery, but then it very quickly becomes apparent that it's actually futuristic, and there's a lot of kind of sci-fi stuff. The basic plot is that in order to achieve immortality for humans, they have a system where you can transfer your brain and your consciousness into a different body. It gets a little bit Repo the Genetic Opera, because from there they kind of infer that if you don't keep up with certain kinds of repayments or certain legally mandated procedures to maintain your own body, then it can be forfeit, and then it'll be sold to the highest bidder. So, quite dystopian. It starts out where you're trying to solve the murder of the guy who kind of invented the whole thing, and it's got a load of little sci-fi gadgets where you try and unravel the events that happened by kind of spinning forwards and backwards through time and examining stuff. So it's got a lot of sci-fi tropes in there, but it still feels like a murder mystery. It's essentially a walking simulator from what I can tell, because of how everything's handed to you. But for the 3 to 5 hours I think it'll last, it's enjoyable enough. Next we have Dungeons of Hinterberg. I'm not sure how to feel about this. So you start out by arriving on an island with a thirst for killing monsters, and then you proceed into a bunch of dungeons to fight these monsters and get a little stamp in your book. There's a bunch of upgrades to your skills and equipment. For some reason it just doesn't really grab me though. It feels very repetitive before you've even started the first dungeon. There are a couple of cool things, like the minecart rides inside the first dungeon. For the most part I'm not particularly grabbed by this. Now next we have Tchia, hope I pronounced that right. It's kind of a Polynesian Pacific Islander adventure, inspired by a lot of their mythology and that kind of thing, but obviously a separate story altogether. There's a rather touching intro text where they talk about why they made it and the people that made the game itself, which is very nice, and then the game itself is pretty cool. There's a couple of bits that kind of grated on me, but I think that's possibly because I've played this before and I can't remember how or why. So if you like these kind of adventure games with nice stories, then you may like this one. And this game it seems to be a first-person game rather than a horror story. The weird thing about it is it seems to be trying to be Dead by Daylight. So in first play it was very confusing. I got dropped in thinking I was in some kind of hub, but actually the game started throwing waves of zombies. I didn't really pay attention enough to notice that V's where my melee key is. I feel like that should have been a selectable weapon, but yeah, I just didn't get on with it. If you like Dead by Daylight, then you'll probably either enjoy this or just go straight back to Dead by Daylight. For some reason people play that game repeatedly for hours and hours and hours. Next we have Biped. Now this seems to be trying to do a similar thing to the PlayStation Astrobots. It starts out by showing you that you move one leg with each of the thumbsticks, so that's kind of interesting, and then you glide around on smooth surfaces, but yeah, it didn't grip me. It was a little bit annoying, and yeah, I just didn't feel any urge to continue playing it. But if you've never played Astrobots or any of those kind of games, you might get a couple hours of fun out of this. And lastly, we have Havendock. Havendock is not a game that plays very well on the Steam Deck. The control seems to be mouse and control or shift and mouse, which is kind of an annoying combo to do on Steam Deck. You can configure some of the paddle buttons to be like control and shift to make your life easier, but for me I just didn't feel the need to do it. You seem to be on an island, and then you're building up like a base, and then you're eventually going to assign people to work on parts of that base. Yeah, yeah, I just didn't get into that either, unfortunately. And then lastly we have IGN Plus, which I do not get. It's not even a continuation of last month's subscription, so it's not like they're making it a thing for all Humble Choice subscribers. It's literally the same thing as last month, where new subscribers can use it for 1 month, but existing subscribers not so much. And yeah, I just don't get it. I don't get why you would pay for IGN's website. I know they say that there are certain games that you get as part of that subscription, but they're very vague on that, and how the whole key system works, I'm not sure. Plus the website itself seems to be absolute garbage. I was on there, I was looking on the IGN website earlier to find out some information about the Switch 2, because I'm having trouble connecting some USB-C headsets to it, and they seem to insist that one of the best headsets is the Arctis Nova 7X, and it doesn't work with the Switch 2, so it seems like they're either AI generating their stuff based on form data they already have, or they're just not doing their checks, or they're just not testing stuff that they're right. As it stands, it's not even a website that I would use for free, let alone pay for. Just don't get it. So that's it. So for me this month, I think I'll play Boltgun a little bit more. Hopefully there'll be a bit more variety, because that kind of, if it's just the zoom, kill and shoot, I think it might wear thin a bit quickly. Soul Reaver, I'll probably play Soul Reaver 2 and see if that brings back some of the spark that I got from the original game or not. Nobody Wants to Die is short enough that I will probably play it to the end, because it's actually quite interesting so far, but everything else is already uninstalled for me. But how about you? What do you think? Let me know in the comments if you like any of these games, or if it's just a dire month that you're going to pause for. Thanks for watching, stay safe, and see you next time.